Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your man L Jamal. Today, I wanted to do something a little bit different for y'all. Now, a few months ago, one of my favorite actors, Val Kilmer, unfortunately passed away. As a form of remembrance, at least on my part, I wanted to do something of a biographical sense. So I wanted to kind of go through his life, his career, and talk about, some of the roles that resonated well with me. So for today, I just wanted, like I said, today it will just be kind of like a run through of his life, his career, and kind of where, where it took him and his lasting legacy. And as time goes on, I did want to break down certain roles that he was in, certain movies, and kind of break down what they meant to me and how they might have inspired me or changed how I look at things. And again, I would like, with these projects is to give you guys a clearer idea about who we may be, because I feel like the media, Hollywood media for one, does a good job of, I don't know, giving us mixed signals about some of these people. And being a fan, I figured why not give my perspective on one of my favorites of all time. So if you liked what you saw today, please be sure to like, subscribe. Please be sure to give me any suggestions if there's any movies you might want me to cover by this guy. I've already have a few already kind of lined up, but again, if you have any suggestions, please be sure to add that to my comments here. And again, let's get into it. I hope you guys enjoy. Val was born December the 31st in Los Angeles, and he was the middle of three children, of Gladys Swinnett and Eugene Kilmer. Now, the arts, specifically acting, had been a part of his life pretty much since the beginning. He was raised on Buddy Rogers' ranch, and he would get deeper into the theater arts as he attended Chatsworth High School along with his buddy, of course, well-known actor Kevin Spacey. He would also end up dating an eventual well-known actress at that time and a songwriter by the name of Mare Winningham. Now, after high school, he would be the youngest person accepted into the Juilliard School of the Arts. Now, this will be pretty much a no-brainer decision for Val because for those of you who may not know, Juilliard is pretty much the Alabama of art schools, and it ended up working out pretty well for him upon graduating. He was originally offered a role in The Outsiders, but decided to turn that down to work in a Broadway production known as The Slab Boys alongside Sean Penn and Jackie Earle Haley. He would also get into poetry as well. He would release his own collection known as My After Eden Burn. So he just was kind of all over the place finding himself, but he would make his first on-screen appearance in an ABC after-school special known as One Too Many, alongside a young Michelle Pfeiffer as well. And this one was about, underage drinking and, of course, drinking and driving. But his first big screen appearance would be in 1984's Top Secret. He would basically be the lead character, a spy known as Nick Rivers. And this one was written and directed by the Zuckers-Abrams combination, and it wasn't highly profitable. It only made $20 million at the box office, but it was highly rated and it does have a cult following. Roger Ebert would go on to say about it, "To describe the plot will be an exercise in futility. This movie will cheerfully go for a laugh whenever one is remotely likely to be found." After Top Secret's success, he would take a break from the limelight, going on a trip throughout Europe before starring in the 1985 comedy Real Genius. His biggest role to date will come as Tom Iceman Kazansky in Top Gun alongside Tom Cruise. The film will bring in over $300 million worldwide. After Top Gun, Kilmer will once again return to the stage and the small screen. On TV, he would have roles in The Murders of the Rue Morgue and The Man Who Broke 1,000 Chains. On stage, he would take part in the Colorado Shakespeare Festival's 1988 production of Hamlet. He'll wrap up the 80s with the lead in the neo-noir drama Kill Me Again, where he would meet his future wife, Joanne Whalley, who he actually would meet on another movie he was working on called Willow. He also starred in another television movie called Billy the Kid, directed by Gore Vidal, which came out in 1989. One of his biggest roles would come in 1991 in The Doors, and this was directed by Oliver Stone. It was based on Jim Morrison and his band, of course. Now, Kilmer always showed interest in the role, but did not want to portray any type of substance abuse. And if you have him tell it, Hollywood was trying to get him into that in order to really prepare for the role, because, of course, this was a part of, Morrison's life as well. Again, this is just what he says. But anyways, he will go on to memorize, of course, Morrison's lyrics, get into more of his music, music. He would go to tribute concerts and even got into Morrison's poetry as well, all in an effort to prepare. And this will pay off because most members of the group and even their former producer were very fond of the job that he did. It will only gross about 32 million at the box office and had some mixed reviews at the time, mostly revolving around Stone's direction, but it would eventually become a cult classic, and a lot of the highlights will be revolving around Kilmer's performance of Morrison. And as somebody who's seen the film multiple times, very rarely do I see a performance in which an actor truly matches, his muse, or the guy he or girl, that they're depicting, fluidly like that. For what it's worth, Kilmer embodied Jim Morrison in that movie, and like I said, you don't see that often. But moving on. He would take on a few more roles before teaming up with Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, and Sam Elliott as Doc Holliday in 1993's Tombstone. It was an adaptation of the events that took place in Arizona during the late 1800s, which ended up in the infamous shootout at the OK Corral. Now, Kilmer's performance would be the point of discussion again in a good way. And you start to see this trend kind of in his career where he's attached to these projects that, don't perform as well in the box office, or they have these mixed reviews, but his performance tends to be one of the, silver linings of that project. So there you go. 1985 would be another big year for Val. He would star in Heat and Batman Forever. Now, despite mixed reviews even till today, that movie would gross over $300 million at the box office. He would spend the rest of the 90s and early 2000s involved in numerous films, major and independent, including Ghost in the Darkness and The Fourth Dimension. He would return to the stage in 2002's Citizen Twain. It was a one-man show, and also The Ten Commandments. In 1998, he would also showcase his voice acting talents in The Prince of Egypt playing Moses, which I didn't even know till today. He would continue his grind throughout the 2000s, working with such actors such as Kate Bosworth and Christian Slater, and directors such as Ron Howard and Oliver Stone. He would at some point make a return to the small screen, hosting Saturday Night Live and playing in an episode of HBO's Entourage. He would also have a guest appearance in CBS's Numbers and would star in the television adaptation of 13: The Conspiracy. In 2009, he would show up in Bad Lieutenant, Port of New Orleans with Nicolas Cage, and Streets of Blood with 50 Cent. He would pretty much stay active one way or another until his passing. Alright, so before his passing earlier this year, Val had been suffering from numerous health issues. We do know about the battle with throat cancer back in 2014. Now, for a long time, he did deny what he was going through. He did not really want to publicly, talk about it. A lot of this did have to do with, just his belief system. He was a Christian Scientist, and I don't want to get into too much of that because I don't want to make any impartial judgment, because I don't really feel like it's right to judge anybody's belief systems. But bottom line is, he did not, disclose anything right away. He did not really address the situation right away. It could have or not have had an effect on what happened. We don't really know. It's not really right to speculate or really get into those things, at least in my opinion. But he did end up getting 2 tracheotomies in order, to help him, to help his situation. And at some point, he was cancer-free. But sometimes those, surgeries or those procedures, they do, lead to other complications. And one of those big complications just happened to be pneumonia. And this is the thing that ended up eventually taking him out. So I'm not going to judge him for what he believed in. This was apparently something that he was always, a part of his life in terms of his Christian Scientist beliefs. So it wouldn't be right to judge him or say, oh man, maybe if he, would have did this, that's not for me to say. Because there's plenty of things that I believe that you might look at and say, whoa, what the fuck is your problem? So let's not go there. It wouldn't be right. And the bottom line is, the man lived his life to the fullest that he could, and he actually lived his dreams, which is something a lot of us don't really do. So let's talk some more about his legacy and some of the good and maybe some of the bad as well. Now, for one, Val was a man of many talents. He was involved in many forms of writing, including poetry and screenwriting. He also served as a producer and a cinematographer, and he also dabbled into some voice acting. He even at some point released his own music. He was nominated for numerous awards, including the MTV Movie Awards and also a Grammy. His self-titled documentary, Val, will win 2 Critics' Choice Awards, and he also won 2 Satellite Awards. Now, he wasn't always perfect. He's well known for having a notoriously very harsh attitude on set and being one of the most difficult actors to work with. At some point before his passing, he would acknowledge this in his memoirs and, expressing regret and, asking for forgiveness for that. He's also mentioned, his failings in love relationships and how he could have been a better man there. So no, he wasn't perfect. But at some point before all was said and done, he did, in a way, repent. He did ask for that forgiveness and he did clear the air. And you gotta respect that. All in all, Val was one of the most, I would say, complicated actors of his time. But you can't say he wasn't good. Now, he might have been involved in some of the most unique movies of all time, had some of the most unique roles of all time. But just like all of us, he's a very unique individual, so it fits him. Alright, y'all, if you like what you saw today, please be sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I didn't want to go too deep into this one right here because I plan to review some more of his films, at least a few more, and I wanted to, go into a little bit deeper into him as I do those reviews. So different aspects of his life at those times and things of that nature. So I didn't want to go too deep here because the end goal was to go deeper into the other projects. So you'll see reviews for The Ghost of the Darkness, also Batman Forever, maybe a couple other ones. Actually, yes, definitely a couple other ones at that. So, like I said, if you liked what you saw today, please be sure to like, subscribe, leave comments, all that good stuff. And I'll be leaving my link to my Instagram in the description of the video. And if anybody hasn't told you yet, I love you. Peace out. One love. I'll let you later.